Hey friends, welcome back to another Q&A video. Like I mentioned on the last Q&A video, I do Q&A live streams every week with my friend Lindsay, and those are really fun. We answer a lot of questions, but typically we only get to the questions in the live chat. And so I like to do these pre-recorded Q&As every once in a while to address some frequently asked questions and then just other questions in like the comments of my videos. But before we get started with the questions, I want to mention that today's video is sponsored by Element. You guys know I use Element every day. I love it. It's the electrolyte of choice for me. They have lots of fruity, refreshing flavors that I enjoy all year round, but this time of year I also really love the hot flavors that they have available. They just made the chocolate caramel one of their permanent flavors, so you can get it all year round now, which makes me so happy because that was probably my favorite of the chocolate flavors. But then also they have the chocolate medley pack that is available right now. That is a limited time. It has the chocolate mint that a lot of people love, and then two brand new flavors, the chocolate chai and the chocolate raspberry. So all fantastic, highly recommended. You can just get it for a limited time. It will probably sell out in not too terribly long. So stock up on that if you need to. Viewers of my channel can get a special offer from Element right now if you use my link, drinkelement.com/indigo, drinklmnt.com/indigo. You can get a free sample pack with any order. It has all of their regular flavors in there, so you can sample them and see which ones you like the best. And all you have to do to get that sample pack is to use my link, go place any order for anything on the website, maybe the chocolate medley pack, and you will get that sample pack added to your order. All right, now on to questions. First, I have a couple of questions about SIBO and some of like the things that I've done to work on my SIBO. And this first question is actually one that I get asked fairly often. People will find some of my older videos about talking about having SIBO and like what I'm gonna do for it. And they'll say, so what happened? Are you better? And, you know, of course they don't realize that I made videos like every single week and I've kind of shared my entire journey, but I understand not everyone can go back and watch every single video. So to answer the question about my SIBO, so about a year and a half ago, I got diagnosed with SIBO with a breath test. And through the whole SIBO journey, I talked about how the breath tests may not be 100% accurate, and there's some debate about that. And so like, I don't know. As far as I know, I had SIBO according to the test. I went through a whole like, I don't know, 6 months or so, maybe even more, of doing the supplement protocols, like the different antimicrobials. And I detailed all of this. So I will link the SIBO playlist up in the cards for you guys if you really want to see the whole journey. And I laid out all of my entire plan. And I will say that between that, the antimicrobial rounds that I did, as well as the different yogurts that I did, this is something else that I talked a lot about. I've done some tutorial videos showing how I make the Erythritol yogurt from Dr. William Davis from his Super Gut book, as well as the mix of different yogurts, including the Erythritol, with a couple of others that are really for SIBO specifically, or can target SIBO specifically. So I will link all of those videos up in the cards. But to answer the question, am I better? Did all of this heal my SIBO? My answer is, I think so. I got more breath tests and I saw improvement every single time I got another breath test. Again, don't know how accurate the breath tests are. There's some people that say that you just throw them out, they don't mean anything. So it's hard for me to say like, I definitely had SIBO. I definitely don't have SIBO now. It's not as simple as like taking a pregnancy test. There's just a lot of nuance. I will say that as far as symptoms go, I feel I won't say 100% better because that would be hard to justify, but I feel massively better from where I was a year and a half ago when I got diagnosed. I was having lots of digestive issues. There was a huge list of foods, even like good, whole, healthy foods that I could not eat because it gave me digestive issues, massive bloating. Like I couldn't eat peanut butter. I couldn't eat like a salad without having pain throughout the night. You know, like there were a lot of things that I just could not eat. And I went down the route for a while of just cutting those things out. Like, if my body can't handle it, then I shouldn't eat it. And that is a legitimate course of action, especially for certain things, like, you know, really processed foods and stuff. Like, I'm not going to eat those. But I was able to affect my health and affect my gut in such a way that now I can easily enjoy a salad. I can easily enjoy a plate of Brussels sprouts. I can eat peanuts now. I can eat peanut butter. I can enjoy so many more foods, and foods that I do believe add benefit to my life and to my health. And I don't have to stay on such a narrow, restrictive diet to feel functional anymore. So I am super happy with the results that I got from both the antimicrobials and doing the yogurts. I can't say which one was the main thing that helped me. I do think it was both. Long answer, yes, I do believe that it worked. The things that I did worked, and my health is much better now than it was. Next question is from one of the videos about the yogurts that I made to help work on my SIBO. And the question is just, is this, the yogurt that I was making, better for the gut/SIBO than simply using kefir grains and raw milk? So I am not an expert on this, and definitely Dr. Davis would be the one really to ask this kind of a question to, but I'll give you my idea about it. My idea about it is yes, because if you have SIBO, you want something that specifically targets the SIBO. And one of the really unique things about especially the Erythritol strain of bacteria is that it colonizes in the small intestine. Most of the different probiotics, they colonize in the large intestine. But since Erythritol colonizes in the small intestine, it can help rebalance and push out the bad bacteria that's in the small intestine. And when you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, your problem is in the small intestine, or at least one of your problems. You can have multiple problems, including SIBO. But specifically for SIBO, having those bacteria that take up root in your small intestine can really help rebalance that area. So if that is the area that you have trouble with, then of course the Erythritol is going to be great for that. I do think, because I've had other questions like that, like, why can't you just eat regular yogurt? Why can't you just use this? Why do you have to, get all these special strains? Why can't you get your probiotics from something else? And it's kind of a funny question, because it's kind of like, in my mind, this is just my idea of an analogy, is it's kind of like saying, why do I need vitamin C? I could just take vitamin D. And you're like, okay, that doesn't really make sense, because yes, they're both vitamins, but they do different things. So all of these different strains of probiotics, they don't all do the same thing. Like, you want a diversity of probiotics in your gut. And because of antibiotic use and all different kinds of things in our environment, different strains can just be wiped out. Like, they can be 100% wiped out. Things that maybe 1,000 years ago people had in their digestive system and everyone just had it. But because of antibiotics that we use now, some of those strains can just be completely gone from your digestive system. And they have so many different things that they do in your body and different ways they affect your health, that trying to get a diversity of all these different good probiotics, I think, is a good goal. It's not just like, oh, I just get my probiotics from this one strain, this one supplement of this one strain, and that's giving me probiotics. I don't need any more probiotics. It's not really about that. It's more about having a balance and a diversity of all these different ones. And sometimes, especially in the age that we live with gut bacteria being kind of wiped out by antibiotics, sometimes you have to be a little bit more targeted. And like, if you're dealing with a certain issue, find a probiotic that really helps with that issue. Like, I found that there was a probiotic that actually is shown to enhance iron absorption. And when I was looking at iron absorption and trying to figure out my issues there, I was like, well, of course, that's the one I need to take. And maybe that's one that I don't naturally have in my body already, and having it would make things better. Anyways, you can just go down a huge rabbit hole with probiotics, and they're not all the same. And, choose the ones that'll help you. And I do think that the ones that Dr. Davis has put together for the Super SIBO yogurt that he created, I think those ones, according to him, are targeted to SIBO. So if that is your problem, I do recommend going that direction. I do see a lot of people with a misconception about SIBO and this idea that any kind of gut imbalance or dysbiosis, they just call SIBO. And that's not really the case. You can have gut dysbiosis and also have SIBO, but you can also have gut dysbiosis like in the large intestine and not have SIBO. So they're not the same thing. They're similar, but they're not the same. So if SIBO and the small intestine is actually your issue, then definitely those probiotics are good for that. But then they're also good for just general health. There's like the benefits, the list of benefits on especially the Erythritol, just massive. And so even if you don't have SIBO, it's still a good probiotic to add into your diet. Next question is actually about the meat slicer that I showed in a video probably a few months ago now. So I did an unboxing of a Vivor meat slicer, and I will put that video up in the cards if you want to check it out. But the question was just, it's been a few months, and do you still like it, and do you still use it? So the answer on that one is I don't use it often. Meat slicers are not fun to clean. It's a big ordeal. So it's not an everyday use item. I think I even said that in the video, that it's not intended to be like something that you have on your counter that you use every day. It's something that I only pull out for a project. Like if I'm wanting to make a whole bunch of jerky, that's the main thing really that I have used it for. I haven't found it's worth it to pull out to like slice cheese or slice deli meat or anything like that. It's just for that jerky, those jerky times. And like I showed in a video a while back that I found at our restaurant supply store here in the area that I can get, I think it was top round roast already sliced. And so if I am going to make jerky, just to keep it easier and so I don't have to pull out the meat slicer, I'll just buy the pre-sliced and then make that. And that just makes it so incredibly simple. So I will use the meat slicer if I need to, but if I can avoid using it, I do, because it is a pain to pull out. It's heavy, it's big, and it's a pain to clean. But it definitely does the job. Next question is about my protein breading recipe. And that is the one that it's basically pork rinds, gelatin, beef gelatin is what I use, and egg white powder. Those are the three main ingredients. And then you can add all kinds of spices and different things depending on what you're making. I've made lots of different recipes with it, and oh my gosh, it's so good. So the question was, seems delicious. Can I use almond flour instead of pork rind crumbs? And I expect so. The answer to that is I expect so. I have not tried it, but I do think it would probably work. I think one thing about the breading that just works really well is that the greasy pork rind crumbs get coated with the powdered gelatin and the powdered egg whites, and it kind of absorbs some of the fat in it, and it gives it more of a flour type feel like in the mouth, because it is like the powdered egg whites and the gelatin, it's just like a powder. So it gives you that mouth feel. And almond flour also has that little bit of greasiness to it. I don't know how it compares as far as macros to pork rind crumbs, like how much fat is in each, but it does have that little bit of greasiness. So I feel like the egg white powder and the gelatin would have that same effect on that. And I bet it would work. And if anyone does try that, I would love to hear what your results are. Real quick, there was something I wanted to say about a previous question, and I forgot to say it, but it was the question about the Allulose yogurt is it better for SIBO than just kefir made with raw milk? And like I said, I do think if you have SIBO, go for the SIBO yogurt. but I do think there's a lot of benefit to kefir and having it be made with raw milk or not. And I actually just ordered kefir grains and they just came in the mail a few days ago, and I've been experimenting with making my own kefir. And by the way, there's some confusion about kefir grains. They're called grains, but there's no grain like you would think, like a seed grain in there. They just are little globules of bacteria, the kefir bacteria. And that's what it's like, the starter that you put in to make the kefir. So anyways, I have been working on experimenting with that because I do see a lot of benefit to kefir. It's just not the same. Like I was talking about the diversity, and you don't just do one and not the other. You can do both and you get benefits from both. And so I do think there's lots of gut and health benefits there. And I will be sharing more about that. I'm still like experimenting with it a little bit, make sure I like know what I'm doing a little bit before I make a video about it, but that should be coming soon. The next question was on my Parmesan wing video, and those were so good. If you guys have not seen that video or not tried that recipe, so good. The sauce was incredible. The wings were, lightly breaded in the protein breading. So crispy, so delicious. Highly recommend that recipe. But the question was actually about the garlic press that I used in the video, asking where I got it. So I don't believe that I got that. I don't believe I purchased that. And so I don't know where it originally came from. It ended up in my house through, I think probably when my mom moved in. I think that's where it came from. But I do love it. It's a really great garlic press. I like it a lot more than the like the whatever press ones that you squeeze together, because it's just so much easier to clean. It's just because it's just super flat. Anyways, I did search on Amazon and I was able to find one that looks the same. I don't know if it's exactly the same brand as what I have, but it looks the same. So I will put that down in the description for anyone that's curious about that. But I do love that garlic press. Next question is about allulose versus erythritol. Just asking if I have a video where I talk about why I choose allulose over erythritol. And I don't believe I have a video about that, but I figured I would just kind of explain a little bit. I am not against erythritol. There are certain products that I consume that do have erythritol. I do find that it gives me some digestive issues if I eat too much of it, and I don't like that effect, so I tend to not use it often. So I only use it if it's in a product that I really want to consume. I don't bake with it. I don't buy it in bulk. As far as why allulose, the browning. So if it's for the egg white bread, the main reason for using the allulose in that is for the texture of the bread and the browning properties. Besides that, it doesn't really add a sweet flavor. It's more for that texture and browning. And then in desserts and things, I like the taste of allulose. I think it tastes pretty close to sugar. It acts like sugar, so you can make like caramel sauce and different things like that because it does caramelize. So I love that. But then beyond that, as far as like health issues, there have been a lot of studies and things showing the health benefits of allulose. So a lot of these sweeteners, it's like we consume them because we enjoy them, and that's about it. Like there's not really, beyond that, there's not a lot of health benefits. But allulose is a little bit different. And one of the things it does is it helps regulate your blood sugar. And actually there's been some testing done where, someone eats a certain amount of sugar and then someone eats a certain amount of sugar plus some allulose, not like replacing the sugar with allulose, but the same amount of sugar with allulose. And the allulose, since it doesn't get absorbed by the body, it kind of just flushes right through. It grabs on, somehow it like grabs on to the actual sugar and flushes some of that out with it. So you're not actually having as much actual sugar. It's getting flushed out and not actually being absorbed by the body. And it's made me think that it might be a good idea to, like, when the kids do have something a little bit sugary, like cutting it a little bit with allulose, not just to cut down on the sugar, but also because it will help them not absorb as much of the sugar that's actually in the food as well. So that might be a good trick if you're trying to like sneak in a little bit healthier eating with your family that's not quite on board with the whole keto thing. Adding allulose, you get that double whammy of it replaces some sugar, and then it also helps flush out some sugar, and so your body doesn't absorb it. So there's a lot of reasons. I like it. It seems to function really well, and it seems to be a pretty healthy thing to add to your diet. All right, last two questions here are about egg white bread. The first one is, can I freeze the egg white bread after it's baked and cooled? Yes, absolutely. It freezes phenomenally. It's people always ask, does it toast? Does it freeze? Does it toast? Does it freeze? And how do you store it? And yes, it toasts. It toasts beautifully. It freezes beautifully. You could freeze it like a whole loaf. You could slice it up and freeze it. You can freeze individual slices. It works great to freeze. As far as storing it beyond freezing, what I always say is I keep it on the counter for a couple of days. If it doesn't get eaten within the first day or two, I will move it to the fridge, and then it will stay in the fridge for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 more days after that. And I just keep it in some kind of an airtight container or Ziploc bag or something like that. Last question, and this is one that I get asked all the time, and so I will address it again since I probably have already addressed it, but it's just on one of the egg white bread recipes, they asked, can you use liquid egg whites and a normal egg instead of the yolk or the whole egg powder that I have in the recipes? Like, can we just make this with fresh eggs? And as much as I would love to say, yes, it's easy, just throw it together like this, it's just not that simple. I do have a recipe where I took fresh egg whites and I was able to make egg white bread out of them. But the process that you have to go through to make that happen is very tedious. So the problem is that liquid egg whites have too much liquid in them, too much water content. And so the egg white powder is the perfect thing to use because you can add just as much water as you need to keep the egg whites condensed and not have too much. As soon as you add too much liquid, you get like a gooey egg white loaf, and it shrinks really bad. So when it cooks, it kind of expands, and oftentimes it looks really nice when it's cooking, and then you pull it out of the oven and it like shrinks down to like this tiny little disgusting blob of egg white loaf. It's terrible. Don't ask me how I know. So that is another tip that I'll throw in here is if you're having trouble with your loaf sinking, try adding a little bit extra egg white powder or a little bit less water and see if that helps. Because as soon as there's too much liquid, it'll shrink. It'll expand more during cooking, and then it'll shrink more after when it's cooling. So the egg white powder is perfect for, adding the right amount of the powder and then the right amount of the water so you don't get too much water. If you want to take liquid egg whites and make it into bread and not use a powder, what you have to do is dehydrate the egg whites. You have to be really careful not to dehydrate them at a temperature that will cook them and denature the proteins. So you have to have it at just the right temperature. You have to dehydrate it and cook off enough liquid so that you have the right amount of condensed egg whites. And I actually did the work to show how to do this. I've never done it again because it is a lot of work and is super annoying. And egg white powder really, when you break it down and look at the price, it's really not that much more expensive than fresh egg whites. And it's been on such good sale recently that's even cheaper to me than fresh egg whites. So anyways, I have not repeated it, but there is a method. If you would like to take fresh egg whites and make it into bread, you have to have a dehydrator that holds a certain temperature. I will put that video here at the end. So if you're really wanting to do a science experiment and figure that out, go for it. It does work. It just takes work. All right, I'm going to leave that here for the video today. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you have any questions for a future Q&A video, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I will try to answer as many as I can. Hope you guys are all doing great, and I will see you again in the next video.